So with the breakdown videos, I usually try to skew of not spoiling too much the prior seasons or the future seasons of Westworld, but I think we now have enough legitimately we can at least project a little bit into the future because they've laid out some things which I think are pretty now fairly obvious if you can put it together the right way. And as always, they're borrowing a lot, I think, from past films. One mixed but great, and the other, I think, also good, but kind of forgotten. And that's why I think they're tapping into it. And most people, even in terms of theory videos, have kind of let this go, though I think the illusion was pretty obvious. So, what is going on? Well, Bernard is back in action, and that very intriguing, whatever we want to call it, dream sequence scene actually revealed quite a lot. Now, they could go either one of two ways. The bad way is kind of the Avengers Infinity War Endgame kind of plot contrivance where in a sense he's kind of the strange of this heroic tale where he sees all these billions and billions of possibilities. He picks out one and it's the best one. It may not be the most lovely one. It's one where he may die, but it's the one necessary to save everyone. And the apocalyptic imagery is very precise. We're getting a burning tree, which presumably is from the Bible, and other sources, including Dune. There's a lot of Dune in this episode. He literally is going on a desert quest. But with Dune, Paul is revealed to kind of be a villain, even if accidental, because the way he unleashed the jihad. That's not much of a spoiler for Dune. That's almost right there at the very beginning. So something weird is going on with Paul. And it's the same kind of thing where he can see the future, but him intervening into the future kind of distorts it. And that's the same paradox that they're playing with, where Bernard has to do something to help people, but he has to do it a certain way because the way it's played out, he does seem to see the future because he anticipates certain movements with the waitress, ordering food, and so on and so forth, taking down those goons. But you gotta think to yourself, well, why is he going through the motions? If he can see the future and he can see it perfectly, he could have done things to really shorten events. And that's just, he has to do it a kind of precise way because he's tried doing it, quote, a shorter way or easier way. So there's no other way but to do it the way he's doing and putting himself at grave risk because, again, those desert rebels almost kill him. But he's willing to take the risk because there's really no other alternative. So, how does this tie back to Christina Dolores? Well, from this episode, Caleb has been captured, and apparently they're going to mind control him. Which seems rather bizarre because we've seen the nanotech so far. It does allow you some control, but it's very, very erratic. So you're controlling him, but he still kind of comes off like a zombie. What exactly is the importance of Caleb? I mean, they have the vice president under control, and he seems very, very well under their dominion. So it can't be pure power or even money. They have now enough important people, and they're getting more people. So what is it that they want from him? Well, I would hazard a guess. They're doing a lot of JFK here. They're probably going to use him to kill or take out somebody very critical, but they need him precisely. And I would guess it actually is the Christina program. I'm guessing a kind of hybrid that either Dolores and or Bernard made together, a kind of fail switch safety net, where if something goes horribly wrong, right, this conspiracy that Dolores, the bad Dolores has to sort of control everything may go really out of control. So she's there to sort of stop that. And presumably she has to be taken out because I think we have enough with the photos and the previews as well as what we've seen in these kind of episodes. I guess the real puzzle here is Maeve because when we think about it, the only two people in this quote 7 year jump where we're in the future are really just Maeve and Caleb. It could all be in Caleb's mind, but Maeve does seem to act like they're in the future somewhere. So what is her role? It could be as simple as bad Dolores just wants to take sort of satisfaction in that she's won and she's kind of going to be and she's going to be turned into a trophy like William is, and that's the end of it. She just wanted the satisfaction of defeating her, and that's all there is to it. But the man in black really seemed intent on killing her, so it's a lot of puzzles, which again is the whole point to get us into these cliffhangers to anticipate the next episode. But again, at this point, Bad Dolores seems to have all the cards, so I'm guessing she's going to do something that accidentally triggers a big counter response. It's kind of like X-Men, right? That the attempt to actually save the future dooms it. So they have to do something to prevent that. Again, so far, Westworld has been okay and not pulling the time travel card, so it could go down a very stupid path with Avengers Endgame. We're just going to have a time travel plot where they have to go back in time to stop the event that they already initiated. A lot of people commented on the bar that they infiltrate that has the word fly, and they've hooked that up to the nanotechnology. But I think it's actually a clever allusion to the butterfly effect, both the real thing as well as the movie. For those who don't know, in the butterfly effect, essentially Ashton Kutcher is able to travel through time, but every time he tries to travel backward to save someone or help someone, he ends up creating a lot of catastrophes or crises, and so he just keeps going in this loop over and over again. And he has to basically understand you can't get everything you want. You have to give up. You have to make a major sacrifice to basically harmonize the timeline. So basically, you have to accept certain bad things in order to let the events flow better. And I think Bernard is kind of deciding which is the lesser evil, and that kind of ties into the other events because when we think about it, in that dream sequence, if he can go through all the different varieties and the possibilities of the future, really bad Dolores has no chance. Really, she can be defeated almost any way because, again, if you go through enough possibilities, there has to be a possibility where she is defeated. So I guess he's trying to decide how badly he has to make a sacrifice, who needs to be sacrificed, including himself, and what's going to be the trade off. So I think the fly in the bar is not just referring to the nanotech. I think they're being more clever and talking about the butterfly effect, which is a real scientific principle, how a little small change at the beginning can have this very big catastrophic effect much later, and you really can't calculate it. You can sort of put it within a range, but you can't control everything. So I think Bernard is trying to decide how much of the world has to be sacrificed for the apocalypse to be prevented. I'm guessing Christina is going to be the critical agent, and Dolores and him are going to be fighting back and forth. But I think Bernard is in much further into the future. So this is getting to tricky territory. If he's within the timeline of the 7 years, you wonder like, well, why didn't he approach Maeve or Caleb directly? And I guess maybe he did try to do that in another version or another timeline, but that ended very badly. So he has to go through the rules of doing it this way. Otherwise, it could be a much worse outcome. It's a lot of heady stuff, but I think it's very intriguing. So there we are with Westworld episode 3, and where they're going with this is very intriguing, and I'm very interested what the next step will be.